Hi and welcome back to your English class. Hope you have done your exams well and you must be patiently waiting for the results. So keep waiting for some time more till the time we complete the lesson that we had already started. So we had started the chapter Deep Waters, and I'll just do a quick recap for what was the chapter all about. The chapter is written by William Douglas, and it is about his experience once when he was drowning in the water. So he wanted to learn swimming, and he goes to the YMCA pool to learn swimming. But one day, a big boy who was elder to him, he did not know that William doesn't know how to swim. So he pushed him in the water unknowingly, and William started to drown in the water. So the chapter is about the experience of William Douglas while he was drowning, and while he was trying to make mentally he was strong enough to tell himself that how he has to save himself, but unfortunately, after a lot of struggle, he couldn't. Uh, he did not have the strength to push his body furthermore, and therefore he starts drowning. And the moment he gains his consciousness, he realizes that he's out of the pool, and people are trying to push the water out of his body. So that was his experience, और इस experience की वजह से बहुत बहुत दिनों तक, बहुत सालों तक विलियम को पानी से डर बैठ जाता है, and he never goes close to any swimming pool or any water body, because whenever he goes there, those memories come back to him, and he feels very afraid, he feels very suffocated, and somehow the the memories of what had happened disturb him a lot. So let us read further now and see how he overcomes this fear. We are on page number 31 in my book, and the line is, I never went back to the pool. I never went back to the pool. I feared water. I avoided it whenever I could. A few years later, when I came to know the waters of the Cascades, I wanted to get into them. And whenever I did, whether I was wading the Titan or bumping river or bathing in warm lake or the goat rocks, the terror that had seized me in the pool would come back. It would take possession of me completely. My legs would become paralyzed. Icy horror would grab my heart. So he tried to go near the water bodies, near the cascades, near the rivers, near the waterfalls, and he tried to get into the water. But as soon as he would go there, this feeling of fear would grasp him, and he would not be able to swim. His legs would get paralyzed, and his heartbeat would increase, and it was very, very difficult for him to stay in the water and swim. This handicap stayed with me as the years rolled by, in canoes on main lakes, fishing for hand-locked salmon, bass fishing in New Hampshire, trout fishing on the Deschutes and Metolius in Oregon, fishing for salmon on the Columbia, at Bumping Lake and the Cascades. Wherever I went, the haunting fear of the water followed me. It ruined my fishing trips, deprived me of the joy of canoeing, boating, and swimming. So, this fear in him was so great that he was not able to even go for fishing, even go for boating, and even he wouldn't go for swimming, because that fear that he would drown again, or the fear that he would not be able to swim back, or the fear that there will be nobody to save him, that was so strong enough that he was not able to uh, do this task. So he went to various places to enjoy himself, but at the end of the day he was not able to enjoy himself because this fear in him, जो ये डर उसके मन में था, वो उसको ओवर पार कर लेता था, and he was not able to complete the task that he had come for. I used every way I knew to overcome this fear, but it held me firmly in its grip. Finally, one October, I decided to get an instructor and learn to swim. I went to a pool and practiced 5 days a week, an hour each day. The instructor put a belt around me. A rope attached to the belt went through a pulley that ran on an overhead cable. He held on to the end of the rope, and we went back and forth across the pool, hour after hour, day after day, week after week. On each trip across the pool, a bit of the panic seized me. Each time the instructor relaxed his hold on the rope and I went under, some of the old terror returned and my legs froze. It was 3 months before the tension began to slack. Then he taught me to put my face under water and exhale, and to raise my nose and inhale. I repeated the exercise hundreds of times. Bit by bit, I shed part of the panic that seized me when my head went under water. So now the writer, he gets little worried also, and he gets irritated also, because he was one person who loved adventure, and because of this fear that is in him, he is not able to enjoy the activities that he used to earlier. He is not able to swim as he wanted to. He is not able to go for boating as he wanted to. He is not able to go for for fishing as he wanted to. So things are are not going according to him. So what he decides is that now again he will learn how to swim. So that was a very big decision that he made, and that decision that he took was to fight his fear, to come out of this fear, right? And then he decides that he would learn to swim. So he contacts an instructor, and then he goes there again. He goes to the pool and he learns how to swim. But this time it is little different, because he is tied with a rope along the waist, and one end is fixed to the pulley, the other end is fixed to is in the hands of the instructor. और जब वो पानी के अंदर जाता था, जब तक वो डीप वाटर्स में जाता था, तब तक वो फ्रीज हो जाता था और डर जाता था, और वो उसके हाथ पैर काम करना बंद कर देते थे. So that was very, very difficult for him. But he practiced every day, every week, every hour. He tried to practice as much as he could, and by the end of 3 weeks this fear was little lessening now, क्योंकि जब वो पानी में जाता था वो फ्रीज हो जाता था. So that thing was becoming little less. Next, he held me at the side of the pool and had me kick with my legs. For weeks I just did that. At first my legs refused to work, but they gradually relaxed, and finally I could command them. Right? So for some weeks the instructor only helped him to go inside the water and come out, go inside the water and come out. Now he told him to practice how to use his legs. So for quite many weeks he only learned the movement of the legs, right? Until and unless he was able to command them. Until and unless इतना प्रैक्टिस किया जब तक वो अपने बॉडी पे उसको कंट्रोल होने लगा, उसके पैरों पे उसको कंट्रोल होने लगा, एंड ही न्यू कि नाउ वो पानी में डीप वाटर में जाने को तैयार था. Thus, piece by piece, he built a swimmer, and when he had perfected each piece, he put them together into an integrated whole. In April, he said, "Now you can swim. dive off and swim the length of the pool, crawl, stroke. I did. The instructor was finished. Means that eventually he started to learn how to swim in October, and this was April. So for these many months he learned how to practice. He practiced and practiced and practiced, and he learned how to swim. So from a person who was afraid to go inside the water or go near the water also, he changed, the instructor changed him and made him into a great swimmer. And then the instructor said, now you're ready to go and swim. So now I will leave you in the water and you have to swim the whole length of the pool and come back. And he did. William Douglas did this task without his legs being paralyzed, without he being frozen in the water, without he having that fear that he will drown again and there will be nobody to save him. So he completed the task and he was able to swim the whole length of the water without the help of anybody. But I was not finished. I still wondered if I would be terror-stricken when I was alone in the pool. I tried it. I swam the length up and down. Tiny vestiges of the old terror would return, but now I could frown and say to that terror, trying to scare me? Huh? Well, here's to you. Look, and off I'd go for another length of the pool. Right? So पानी में वो जाता था, स्विमिंग भी वो कर पा रहा था, पर उसको थोड़ा सा डर था कि वो अकेले स्विम कर पाएगा कि नहीं. और एक बारी 2-3 बारी वो कोशिश भी करता है अकेले स्विमिंग करने की, एंड ही वाज सक्सेसफुल इन डूइंग दैट. सो ही इज़ वेरी लाइक, जब वो पानी में होता था तो बीच बीच में उसको पुरानी मेमोरीज याद आती थी. Tiny bits and pieces में those memories would come back to him, but at the same time he was trying to be strong enough. He was having a strong willpower that he would not let that fear overpower him, and he would not let that fear stop him how to swim. This went on until July, but I was still not satisfied. I was not sure that all the terror had left. So I went to Lake Wentworth in New Hampshire, dived off a dock at Triggs Island, and swam 2 miles across the lake to Stamp Act Island. I swam the crawl, breaststroke, side stroke, and backstroke. Only once did the terror return. When I was in the middle of the lake, I put my face under and saw nothing but bottomless water. The old sensation returned in miniature. I laughed and said, well, Mr. Terror, what do you think you can do to me? It fled and I swam on. Right? So the writer was not satisfied enough. So he tried to continue practicing, and by the month of July he was ready to go alone on a solo swimming trip. So he goes to Lake Wentworth in New Hampshire, and then he goes to swim in the lake. And he tried all the strokes that he had learned from his instructor. And the line says that the terror came in miniature, which means that small bits and pieces of those memories came back to him and tried to stop him, but he had a very strong willpower. He had this in mind that he would not let this fear overpower him. So he tells Mr. Terror, stay away from me, don't come near me. Means he's telling the fear, जो उसका डर था उसके मन में, वो उस डर से कह रहा है कि मेरे पास आने की कोशिश मत करो. I will be able to fight you back, so don't try to scare me. Yet I had residual doubts. At my first opportunity, I hurried west, went up the Titan to Conrad Meadows on the Conrad Creek Trail to Mead Glacier, and camped in the high meadow by the side of Warm Lake. The next morning I stripped, dived into the lake, and swam across to the other shore and back, just as Doug Coppin used to do. I shouted with joy, and Gilbert Peak returned the echo. I had conquered my fear of water. Okay, but still the writer isn't satisfied, and he wanted that he should go somewhere uh, all alone and try to swim again, so that he would be able to fight with this fear. And he goes to a place called Titan, to the Conrad Meadows, and he swam across the lake, and he came back like a to and fro action, and he was able to do it without even having the thoughts that जैसे पहले उसको छोटे छोटे टिडबिट्स में उसको पुरानी यादें आ जाती थी और वो डर जाता था, अब वो थॉट्स भी नहीं आए. सो ही शाउटेड वेरी लाउडली, एंड बिकॉज दैट प्लेस वॉज सराउंडेड विद द माउंटेन्स, तो उसकी आवाज़ एको होने लगी, गूंजने लगी. Or the voice came, hit the mountains and came back to him, and he was utterly overjoyed with the action that he had done. And he shouted out with joy that he had overcome the fear of the deep waters. The experience had a deep meaning for me, as only those who have known stark terror and conquered it can appreciate. In death there is peace. There is terror only in the fear of death, as Roosevelt knew when he said, "All we have to fear is fear itself," because I had experienced both the sensation of dying and the terror that fear of it can produce. The will to live somehow grew in intensity. At last, I felt released, free to walk the trails and climb the peaks and to brush aside fear. So he says this whole experience of his, right from the childhood till this age where he learned swimming again, and where he was able to overcome his fear of being in deep waters. He says कि जब तक डर तुमको डराएगा, आप जिंदगी में हमेशा डरते ही रहोगे. And the moment you feel कि you can fight your fear, and you can fight and overcome that fear, you will be successful in life. And that's what the writer did. And at last he says that I was able to walk freely, swim freely, and he was able to fight with his fear, and he was overjoyed for what he had done. So with this we end this lecture and the chapter also. In the next class, I will be sending you the notes, so please see that you complete your notes in the fair copy. Also make sure that you complete the previous work also, so that nothing remains pending. If you have any questions, then please do feel free to ask me. Till then, take good care of yourselves. Have a nice day.